Hey everybody, welcome to the Bold Inventor Show. I'm JD Houvener, accompanied by Matt Kulseth, my co-host.
Hello, hello, hello.
And we're doing it again. We're back here. We're here every Wednesday at 12 o'clock noon Pacific time. And gosh, the holidays are close,
Dude,
really
it's
close.
flying. It is flying. December is for madmen. It is so
Yeah.
busy, and yeah, I'm sure we'll be picking up the pieces in January.
1000%. Yeah, just like everything coming together, business and personal.
Yep.
It's
Everything needs to
massive.
get wrapped up. Everything needs to get spent. The
Yeah.
trademark's going to need to get filed. Yeah, the patent's got to get filed. Everything's got to get filed.
And this is basically the last week,
Yes.
full week for sure. So a couple more days next week. Well, we're here, we're doing it, and we're talking about inventions, patents, trademarks, brands, all that good intellectual property stuff. Matt and I've been doing this type of work for over a decade plus. If you round up, maybe you've been 2 decades almost.
I don't know. I graduated 2011, so yeah.
You're in
we're
your
getting there,
second
man.
decade, yeah, right. Well, good. Well, and so we got a couple live viewers. That's awesome. We want to participate as much as possible. So if you want to have any questions, comments, suggestions, love to get to you if you're out there live. We've got a couple of preloaded questions that have come in throughout the week. We'll get to those right away. But if you ask a question right now, we'll prioritize. We'll get right to you. We're not going to answer any specific confidential legal questions, but we'll share legal information, our thoughts on hypotheticals or the whole process, which I know can be pretty tricky. And in not too short a time, we'll have our guest on, Chris Clarke.
I'm really excited to meet him.
Yeah, he's the inventing intelligence, I put, but he's the East Village AI. I feel like we have a guest on AI every single week.
It makes sense.
Why not?
It is kind of what is happening right now.
It's what's happening. So excited to have him on, and we have another perhaps surprise guest, which will be on in about 20 minutes, an inventor. Gosh, let me pull up his name. I'll pull up his name. We'll keep the drum roll going on that. Let me get the questions up because we had a few.
Great.
A bunch, I should say, popping up since last week. So let's start out with the patent question. This one's short and sweet, but I think thoughtful. This is out of Quora. And when you're writing a patent application, the question is, which is better? Quote, can, or quote, may, or quote, is in the specification of a U.S. patent? Gosh, I think in general, when writing a specification, you want to be able to describe your invention as broadly as possible, so long as what you will eventually be claiming, you have confidence that that claim is going to be novel and non-obvious. So if, for example, you think, as you describe one version of your invention, which is pretty typical, you want to describe your full version all the way through, and you might start talking about a specific metal alloy, metal being the main frame of it. If it's a device, you could probably say something along the lines of, well, this can be made out of other materials. So I think those are pretty synonymous. By saying is, that seems to lock it into one particular type.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of more narrow, which may be the right way to go, depending on if you've done a patent search and you know that this is the way. If you're describing a software method, step 2 is before step 3. So sometimes it's important to be specific when there is only one way to do it. But if you're describing an object, a material, a substance, and even a processor method, if there are multiple ways to do it, you want to try to capture that the alternative embodiments, the other ways it could look, the other ways it could function. That's the beauty of a utility patent, is at the end of the day, you want to have claims that could have broad application well beyond the one or maybe 2 prototypes that you've developed.
JD, I think you've nailed it here, because what I'm hearing you say is that you need to be specific enough to register that patent, but not so specific as to not be able to enforce the thing after it's done being registered, right? And I think that's really where a good, knowledgeable, experienced patent attorney can help. right? It's that nuance. Like do I want to frame it up as broadly as possible, or am I concerned about this potential, what do you call it? Prior art that I need to avoid in my language from my claims, right? So
totally.
I mean, on the trademark side, we deal with the same kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to be as broad as possible, but we need to be specific in cases where there's potential registration concerns.
Yes, 1,000%. And I will say one more thing on specifications. That is the description of the invention. You kind of get free reign. You can really go crazy and write a lot. The claim language, every single word matters. And I thought that's what they were going to be asking about, is the claim language. And so no, claims are separate from the spec, which is the description. And the spec must support the claims. So anyway, great question. It led to a kind of a longer-winded answer, but hopefully shed some light there. I got a question on trademarks here. This is class 20. You're going to go to furniture, Matt.
Oh, wow. That's a unique one. I've done some cat furniture recently.
I'm trying to come up with a brand name in class 20 furniture. For example, the words noble and noble are both already registered. If I had an arbitrary word like realm, would such a name as noble and noble work? Could you do that just by adding extra words in the middle, or is that going to get rejected?
It'll get rejected.
No, why?
Yeah, so likelihood of confusion. So looking at the trademark in its totality, furniture is a very specific category at the USPTO. So you're not going to get around this. And, just by putting like the word realm next to noble, you're not necessarily getting away from that prior registration for noble. So the first word in any trademark is really of the utmost importance from a registration perspective. So unless that first word is realm, you're probably going to catch an office action. That being said, I think there's a lot of clients get hung up on not being able to register this one brand they had in mind. But, there are so many great brands out there for clients. But it does require them to get a little creative and, put some work into the branding process. And we're happy to help with that whenever. Okay, perfect. So get hold of Matt if you got questions on how to get through, avoid that confusion, which is So if you're aware of this company already and you found them very easily, they'll find you very easily too. So don't go to market with that brand. Talk to the trademark attorney first.
Very, very good. Speaking of that, and I do encourage those on the live channel to go ahead and plug in your question if you've got one. This is a good time to do it. If you do have a confidential inquiry and you want to schedule a discovery call, that's your link right there. And I always say this, but you'll get a free mug, a Bold Patents Go Big, Go Bold mug if you schedule on that weekly live link. So take advantage of that. I see we have other guests. Doug Hunter popped in, so he'll be there later on this show. So let's do a couple more. One on the patent side, one on trademarks. Gosh, let's see. This is a really good one. It's such a good one, very relevant. I don't have a perfect answer, but I want to talk about it. It's coming up all the time.
It's a stretch question.
It's a stretch, yeah. It's a long one. It's going to cover up our faces here. I've developed a new design, which most likely meets the requirements for a patent. How do you know? Being novel and inventive. Novelty and inventiveness. However, in doing my research on the technical aspects, I have used AI, mostly Google Gemini, as a sounding board. I described the sub-assemblies in detail, often with details, hand sketches, and asked Gemini's opinions on things like material properties, recommended conduit sizing, and Gemini offered very useful advice, but did not provide any useful suggestions for improving it. Let's see if we can get the rest of the question. For improvement, those all came from me. Does this communication constitute public disclosure, or am I still okay? Public disclosure. Public disclosure. Well, Matt, do you want to comment before I jump in?
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say not public disclosure, but go ahead.
I think that's correct. I think currently it's not, but it does, I think, depend on the version of the AI tool you're using. There are levels, and most of them, I'm familiar with ChatGPT, where you can pay for service, and at least they describe in lots of detail how your data, once you pay, is sort of, I think the word is sandbox. In other words, they're going to be not using whatever you put into that model to train their AI. So you can be most certain there. In fact, our law firm is using it for research, right? For helping with client work, client matter. And
Yep.
so I'm convinced that is secure. So if you're using this on your own, if you're using a free version, let's assume that worst case scenario, I think you're still okay, by the way. You're using the free version, it could help train the AI model.
There's probably some metadata out there, but nothing that would constitute proper disclosure, right?
Yeah. So the current standard with the patent office is would a person of ordinary skill in the art of your invention, would they be able to find that, publish that document, that information? Is it readily available to a person of ordinary skill? And I think the answer clearly is no. If it's in some server somewhere, within within Google, Gemini in this case, I think that is a no, pretty clear no. But the laws can change, things could happen, it could evolve. Maybe it is findable, and maybe someone else using a public server types in the same question just after you did, and they get served with information that you just put in. So I think there's room for argument on the other side, but I don't think it rises to the level of a publication. By the way, timing wise, the US has got a really great grace period. So as soon as, even if it were a full disclosure, right, you publish your whole invention on a website right now, you have a whole year to file a patent application in the US. That would be hopefully enough time for you to gather information, hire an attorney, and get it filed properly. So hope that helps a lot. Yeah.
Now, JD, the second part of the question that isn't asked is that, let's say that Gemini makes some material contribution to the invention, right? It says, I've looked at your drawings, and I've decided that I can improve them by using an I-beam with, magnesium alloy or whatever, right? It comes up with something that fundamentally makes the product work.
Yep.
Now, did you just invent something, or did AI invent it?
Right. That's the $1 trillion question. I think we're going through this right now with a lot of inventors, and determining inventorship is becoming harder and harder. It does depend. At the end of the day, legally, it is what is eventually claimed. Did the inventor conceive of the core elements of that claim? And it will come down to whether that inventor, that human being, which is currently required, are they willing to sign an oath that they invented the subject matter being claimed?
Yes. No, I mean,
we can't do it for them.
Right.
We can advise them currently that a non-human is ineligible to be named as a co-inventor. So you've used resources and tools, and you have queried the right query.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have found the hole, and perhaps that could arguably be a discovery, an invention. Yeah. But I think a lot of that is yet to be
litigated. This all will be litigated at some point. Somebody will have $1 billion invention where it's worth the attorney's time and money to dig through their computer to look through chat GPT conversations about inventionship.
100%. I'm excited for that.
We'll get there. And then
all eyeballs will be there. Yeah.
Make some rulings about some standard for, how much AI can assist you. It's a magic language that we all have to be aware of.
Absolutely. Matt, that's a perfect segue to bringing on our guest, Chris Clarke from East Village AI. Welcome to the Bold Inventor Show.
Hey, Chris.
Thank you for having me, guys. I am thrilled. It's great to meet you.
Same. Well, thanks for coming on and, being interested in, speaking to inventors. We have a pretty broad audience of, all sorts of entrepreneurs, probably lawyers out there listening, interested parties. So it should be a fun conversation.
Yeah, I love the questions coming in. And I was thinking, you're dead on with conception. That's clearly the hook there.
Right.
I think it was last year, in fact, with WIPO saying there's sort of 4 categories, right, of the intersection of AI and IP. And it's sort of gateway sentience, tool to accelerate development, like incorporative feature, and then the full Skynet. Just do everything for me. And as long as you have human in the loop, some of those lines are blurring, but it's exciting to see where it's going. And
Yes.
Matt, I think you're right. All of that will happen. Just jumping in, I do know, did you guys see that case where even the paid tier on ChatGPT was discoverable?
I did not see that.
So I totally agree with your take on is it a disclosure? No, and even if so, you have the full year, which is great in this jurisdiction. I think a lot of people don't know what's going to happen with the other ones without the grace period, but
yeah,
absolutely 100%. It's if it comes out in discovery, legal action, that's going to upset a lot of apple carts.
Yeah, definitely discoverable, right? Material.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I just looked this up too, and when you mentioned it, and like it looks like ChatGPT, obviously, right? They're indexing all this stuff, right? So.
Yeah.
Wowzers. Well, I mean, do we have the case name? I haven't actually read that.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, I'll make a note. It's good stuff. I mean, this is how fast this stuff is moving.
Right.
Oh, cool. So would you tell us about East Village real quick? Let us know kind of what your background is and what you're up to.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm an independent consultant. I had sort of an interesting trajectory to get here. I focus on AI, and more and more over the years, I've been incorporating elements of IP. So I started out life as a theoretical physicist, got my doctorate in 2004. I worked in defense for about 8 years.
Cool.
And so, of course, lots of programming, lots of looking for patterns, lots of curiosity. You don't last long without it. And towards the end of my tenure in defense, a lot more of our work started being what was called then advanced statistics.
Yeah, sure.
Which, if you were a mathematician from like 1956 onward, you'd say, Leonardo DiCaprio on the couch, that's AI. So that's what, we were getting into more and more. And
big data modeling,
Exactly. Yeah. And that was that was kind of
that was it for a decade there. Big data, data modeling, business tools.
Matt, I'm surprised you heard that because I lived it. So
yeah, I did too. I used to be a data analyst.
Okay, so this is awesome because my first job outside of defense, the title was senior mathematical modeler.
Okay. I was data scientist for a few years.
Yeah, exactly. So from defense, I went into renewables, and I got pulled into a really forward-thinking advanced analytics. That's another trigger phrase or buzzword from that, Matt. Some great forward-thinking people like Tassos Gomes and Steve Voss. And really, it was just like a dream team of people with deep subject matter expertise, math, programming, just to solve a lot of these sort of predictive analytics problems. Mm-hmm. And that was my first brush with IP, as that they were obviously destined to take over the world, so they were going to carpet bomb the intellectual property space. And so this was full service, like, here's our idea, this is what we built. And then there'd be interactions with, the patent attorneys. And needless to say, their emphasis on renewables kind of transformed or morphed into financial engineering. Fast forward, that didn't end well. They're out of business. I went into another space, still sort of early in the transition, which was big data, customer experience analytics. And so maybe Matt, about wrangling Spark clusters and
Yep.
Yeah. So that was the space we were in, and that was sort of the next evolution, not my final form, but the next evolution, where again, sort of prescient leadership decided we need to expand our IP portfolio. And I worked with some terrific counsel in Rusty Close, and he was at a firm called Troutman Sanders in Atlanta. I think maybe now they're Troutman's
Troutman's a large firm. I don't know what they're called today.
All right.
I know that
Troutman, Pepper, Locke, or
something. I know that I'm working. Opposing counsel works for them at some point.
They lost to Sanders, presumably to like a chicken paramilitary outfit. I think he's a colonel. But so the idea though was that we were going to save a lot of money and have Chris write the patent.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, so I wrote 2, and technically I wrote 4, but we only pursued 2.
Okay.
So I have like the utmost respect, and that was the beginning of almost hero worship for intellectual property attorneys. I went through a gauntlet of grad school in physics, but writing that patent, I mean, it was so painful. It was a new skill. It was, I think a lot of my trajectory is sort of described as being like, or analogous to a decorator crab. You're going along the bottom of the ocean and you're like, oh, that's shiny. I put that on. This was like putting something really toxic on my body.
Okay. You couldn't wait to get it off?
Yeah.
So but I love doing it, and I learned a lot. And so we wrote a few in that space to protect what we were building, and that was great. And in tech, this won't surprise you, that company also went under. And so a lot of
consumer experience company.
Yeah, just software in general is 2 years is sort of like a pretty solid tenure in like SaaS, software as a service. The great news for my consultancy though is I met tremendous people along the way. It was a revolving door of extreme talent in most of these companies. And so then after that company, I worked for a fintech. And at that stage, I really decided that my last FTE or W-2 role was actually my first independent consulting, where it was very similar. I'm hired as an expert, but in this case, there was a slight twist. They didn't do what I recommended.
Weird.
So I'm like, okay, so we acknowledge I'm the right guy for this, but you're basically hard passing on what we should do. Okay, well, I'm done. So I went out on my own, like any stubborn person who knows it all. And that was 2020, 2021, and I've been doing it ever since. So focusing on AI, but also adding value with basically writing applications. So I've done provisional, non-provisional, continuations. Okay. Yeah. Nice. I'd like to say I'm not an attorney, but I play one on LinkedIn.
Sounds good. So you work with, I guess, what would be like an ideal client? Maybe kind of walk us through that. How you start with them, how you.
So it runs the gamut, and so I'm a huge fan of the startup culture, and there's a lot that can go wrong. So, needless to say, my favorite clients are ones that are flexible and acknowledge the boundaries of their understanding. And if they listen to me, we generally have a good outcome. My other one is established product teams and research teams where they could be Fortune 100, but they've got native built-in capabilities to actually create and ship AI products and features. And it's usually just a little bit of directed help with cutting-edge applications. So I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm still hitting keyboards. So I do prototyping as well. But these days with the plethora of talent, a lot of my interactions with even smaller companies, I will partner. And so on the IP side, I have fantastic counsel in Sam Pierce, Pierce Patent Law. And I'm actually now sort of, with all of the AI and, both good and bad, a lot of what we're doing is offering essentially commoditized application service. So it's sort of a graduated discovery, fleshing out, novelty, and then drafting. And I have someone else I'm essentially working with on that, a very talented Canadian machine learning expert who's way deeper in the published patent space than I am. And that's Ankur Tagra in a review. So I have a great team, and that's what most of my interactions and engagements look like is I get in the door, I assess the need, and I build a team. And so it's a lot like fractional innovation.
Okay, got it. Is it sort of like a better thing when a technical founder finds you when they're on their own and they're saying, "Hey, I need help building a team that's ready, so I can get ready to raise money or I can get ready to grow." Is that sort of the deal?
That's dead on. And a lot of it is they don't really know how much of a team they need. And so there are instances where our conversation ends after, a 30-minute free discovery call.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I love the idea of people, talking to their dead through animated videos. This was literally 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, I've heard this one before. Yeah.
And I'm like, we are going to get steamrolled if we do this. It will, it's going to cost you $3 million to do it now, and it's going to just come along with frameworks later. And that's where, that's where we ended up. Is you can literally do this with, a $20 subscription to some of the,
Sora, or whatever.
Yeah, Sora, Nano, Banana, exactly, Matt.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so you do quite a bit of vetting, and hey, does this have legs? Type of discussion. You're still open to that.
Absolutely.
Helping people. That's fantastic. What's the best way to get a hold of you? I mean, you get your website. I can share.
Yeah, eastvillage.ai is a great one. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Those are both good channels.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go on to our next guest. I guess any final thoughts, parting wisdom, things to look out for, some maybe gold nuggets you want to share?
Absolutely.
Yeah, things like that.
So one thing that I've learned through kind of getting up to speed in the IP space is that I've been continually surprised at how iterative it is.
Right.
And so I know a lot of founders out there, and I know a lot of innovators out there are afraid to pursue patenting or even trademarking. And the lesson that I've learned is don't be afraid, jump out. It's through that iteration that you get that clarity, and that's like really the seed of innovation.
So when you're hesitating and it's not perfect, you're saying take that jump, go for it, get out there.
Hire a professional and take that jump.
Love it. Well, I might steal that. Chris, thank you for being with us. I appreciate you. You have a good rest of your day. Thanks for being on Bold Inventor Show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really enjoyed it.
See you, Chris.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, yeah, Matt, you've been diving into AI. You're all like talking to Sora.
I probably need to talk to Chris at some point, because it seems like Chris is the kind of guy who really gets, the opportunity that AI presents, right? And it sounds like if anyone can kind of understand how you take an idea and commercialize it, right, to make money on it, which, is easier said than done at this point in AI, right? Because everyone is just throwing stuff out there right now, and everything's kind of free use, and it's not always going to be like that though. So a guy like Chris can really kind of read the tea leaves and figure out what a commercial product actually looks like, I bet. Yeah, I'm going to be sending quite a few of our clients in that area to Chris. So let's go to our next guest, Matt. We're going to go our second guest. We've got Doug Hunter's been waiting backstage. Doug, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Happy to have you. And you're the owner founder at Altrium.
Alterium.
I almost got it. Oh, man, I should have had that. Okay, so you and I talked even, which is really good. And I thought we should chat on our show. You've got tons of experience. Started out with
That was some really interesting stuff you guys were covering before. I loved listening to that. I found that really intriguing. And it was something I hadn't really thought about yet, where the AI is crossing over into the patent space, and what consists of something that a person invented versus what a community intelligence might have invented. And
yeah.
fascinating stuff. So sorry to interrupt.
No, it's perfect. I mean, it's so interesting to me too. It's this acceleration of innovation, the potential for that. And it's like, well, who's hungry to do what? Like, if you're hungry enough and you have enough passion to do this thing, you can do it, So in that frame, it's certainly an optimistic look. But in terms of like trying to put, the federal patent stamp on something, it's gonna hit a wall. There's just, because it's just, how do you determine what was invented by one individual? How do you give one individual 20 years of exclusivity for something that they may not have invented? And
sure. And the patent office will never move as fast as industry wants to move.
No, right. But anyway, I'm of course we're watching it on our side too. But so let's see. So what is what's going on with you and your company, your consulting work? I'd love to hear kind of who your target is and what you're looking to accomplish.
Well, I spent the majority of my career in automotive powertrain, lubrication, engineering pumps. I love the check engine light back there, by the way. That's awesome. I wish I thought of that. Now, were you on vacation somewhere and you just saw that in a novelty store, or?
Yeah, you know what? There's a YouTuber that I like to watch who's got one in his office, and I was like, you know what? That's pretty cool. And in my line of work, I meet a lot of new clients, and kind of having a background that kind of tells them who you are a little bit is useful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to find out where to get one of those. I think
Amazon.
It might not be too late to ask for one for Christmas.
Yeah.
Super cool, Doug. So background in Detroit, you're an auto guy. And now you do consulting around automotive product and engineering designs. Is that right?
Some of it's in automotive. Some of it's outside of automotive. What I did in my career is a little bit too focused to really, keep food on the table with the consulting business. So I try to broaden the focus a little bit. I focus on product design, and I help small to mid-sized companies with product design challenges. Whether they completely lack a certain capacity or knowledge base where they need someone to come in and help out. They might lack an engineering department where they've been manufacturing the same thing for 10, 15 years, and now it's time to update the product, and they don't have a team in there to do it, and they're not big enough to hire a team. So they come and bring someone like me in a fractional role to take care of that for them. There's some companies that might need some leadership to get through a challenge, or some additional capacity where they don't want to hire somebody permanently, but they're willing to hire somebody short term. So I can help out in all of those ways.
Got it. Well, can you share a little bit about? You said you got 30 patents issued. Do a little bragging on it for us. What's sort of the most interesting invention that you've patented?
Let's see. There's a couple I could point to. The latter of the two, I think, was a better patent overall as far as the quality of the patent. But more my passion lied in the entire industry of engine lubrication went through a transition, and everyone was trying to do this roughly at the same time. Americans and Europeans first, and then the Japanese a little bit later. They like to follow a little bit and make sure that everyone else has it figured out and it works right first. But moving from fixed displacement to variable displacement pumps with electrohydraulic regulation systems. So the company that I was employed by, I led them through that, but I think every one of our competitors was trying to do the same thing and had somebody that was doing the same thing. So I enjoyed that innovation the most, and those patents the
Are you
most.
talking
I've
about like variable
learned.
valve timing? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
No,
Okay.
no. Although those systems were hydraulically actuated largely, except for, ironically for the ones made by my employer at the time, Borg-Warner. They had an oilless system, or a largely oilless system, but everyone else was using oil-powered systems. So that upsized the pumps, right? That made the pumps larger, so that drove in part the need for going to variable displacement when they added variable valve timing systems to the engines.
I see. Okay.
But it was interesting to hear Chris talk earlier about carpet bombing. That's the perfect word, because that was the strategy that we employed. We had some ideas, and we tried to carpet bomb the space, and we might have hit 9 cities out of 10, but the 10th city is the one that prospered. And I always looked back and wondered, did we improve our commercial position, or did we just inhibit everybody else and slow the industry down? You know what I mean?
So in terms of patents, and so act as a defense mechanism for sure.
Right, right. But if you do that, if you're defensive, but then you don't really do a good job or the best possible job of developing the technology and bringing it to market, then you might have just had the effect of slowing everyone else down, and then that kind of can come with some regret.
It's true. Unfortunately, yeah, the way that works. I mean, you're sharing the knowledge, but yeah, you got to wait. If you don't want to infringe, potentially up to 20 years before you. I guess there's also the point of, are you going to enforce those patents that you've,
Exactly. But then the one that I would say we actually got more commercial benefit out of, I would say, and was a better written patent. And I put more into writing that patent after I had learned on the other stuff, and actually guided the attorneys a little bit more. But that had to do with, there was a transitional technology stage where vacuum pumps were being moved off of the camshafts, and they're glommed together with the oil pump under the engine and driven off a common shaft. And I innovated a way of combining those two together that reduced complexity, reduced parts, and actually improved performance. So definitely got a lot of satisfaction out of that one. We're working with a premier German OEM, and those I always found to be the most fun.
Borg-Warner, I bet.
Well, Borg-Warner was a tier 1 supplier, and we were part of Borg-Warner for a while until they sold us off back in 2009. But the company that I finished my, in the words of Chris, my W-2 career with, they were a spinoff from Borg-Warner. So,
okay. Cool.
But our customers were always, the big three, or the European OEMs or the Japanese OEMs, and we were what was classified as a tier 1 supplier, which meant we sold directly to them, and then the tier 2 suppliers would be where we got our components from, and so on and so forth.
So Doug, you're taking on new clients? Let's say you got a solo entrepreneur who's got patent pending. Where do you feel like you're giving the best bang for the buck? What kind of questions or problems can you come in and just be like, oh yeah, this is my sweet spot? How are you going to help that type of individual or small startup entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different ways I could help out. So some of that would really have to do with where they felt their shortcomings were, where I could try and fill the gap. But, I've got experience from those concepts to working with the patent attorney agency that we worked with for, vetting, writing the patents, organizing and managing claims, managing claim count. I've written patents that ended up with like 100 claims, and I've written some that only had like 5 claims. But the massive number of claims was part of that carpet bombing strategy, and I wonder again in retrospect, would we be better off writing multiple patents with fewer claims, or one patent that's really carpet bombing with every possible combination of claims that you could think of? But keeping track of all that stuff is a nightmare. It consumed hundreds of hours trying to construct some of those patents. But so really, a lot of those different aspects of the process. Had a lot of experience, countering the examiners. The examiners might be citing art and saying that your claim is not valid because of this, but they've really misunderstood something. So helping our attorneys return to them with an argument to save those claims.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you support your client and maybe even saving them some legal fees.
Possibly, yeah. I think that my rate is considerably less than what the lawyers are charging. So,
fantastic. Have you ever done any expert work in litigation or testimony?
I was retained to do that. They ended up settling out.
Okay.
Unfortunately, most of my expertise on that side is on the personal side with my first marriage, and we don't have to get into that. But
no, we don't. Sometimes we do, but no, I don't think today's today. Well, great. Well, and so we got your website, altarium.com.us.
Yes.
.us, and you've got a bunch of services there. Excellent. Well,
the .us was a lot less expensive than the .com for some strange reason.
Efficient, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well,
like $30 versus $3,000.
Yeah.
Like, where's it? You wonder where it's coming from, but there's no one to argue with. So,
I didn't get to it with our previous guest, but I'll ask this: lessons learned. Maybe in your own journey, or maybe through your client's eyes. What are some really big, maybe one thing you can think of to put you on the spot? Where like, I really wish I would have done this earlier, or I really wish my client would have done this. Would have saved them a big headache. What is that one thing you can think of?
One thing that pops into mind right away is benchmarking.
Benchmarking. Okay.
Yeah, as a inventive-minded person, a lot of us love innovating, right? So we just want to go and do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Action.
But you could dump 100 hours into doing something, or you could dump maybe 30 hours into benchmarking and then 20 hours into doing something and be in the same spot or even a better spot, right? So the rush to just go off and do something versus kind of taking a scan of what's out there and what's been done, where have other people walked already, and then make better use of that information. And I'm sure that, in this age of AI, the emergence of AI is going to become even easier to do.
Doug, that is awesome. And it strikes true with me. So true. In my early days of starting up Bold Patents, I was afraid to go look at competitors. I don't care what they're doing. I don't want to know. Because I'm doing this. Because maybe,
because you have your thesis,
right?
This is my thesis for Bold Patents, and I will not be dissuaded. And there's nothing wrong with it.
It was kind of it, but it was also like screw the naysayers, right? And so I think there's some of that,
right?
But in the end, you're actually right that if you actually go look and see how they're taking calls, how they're doing their business, there are ways to do things concretely better. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to look. Interesting you say that.
Interesting case study, where this can be a cultural issue or a facet of a culture. We were, benchmarking is common in automotive. You will, like, if GM comes out with a new vehicle, Ford's going to buy at least one of those and completely tear it apart. And they'll literally put up pegboards, like racks of pegboards, like the old, remember that you go shopping like a Spencer Gifts and you'd be leafing through the posters. Well, imagine those
I've never done
posters
that. I've
with
never
their pegboards with every part on that vehicle hung on a pegboard, and you're flipping through pages of these things. Every automaker will do this. So benchmarking is important, but I think the Japanese kind of take it to another level. They take it really seriously, and they look at it, I think, as a value to society thing. Like, it's more important for us to increase overall value to society than it is for us, our company, to make a huge profit. And it's a little different than the American thinking. But so we decided to benchmark a Japanese product, and I went to the local dealership to buy one. And my concern is, they're going to choose not to sell it to me unless I have a vehicle ID number, because they're going to try and protect their technology. So I go to the parts department and I tell him I want to buy this pump, and he says, okay, this is the price. And he says, then he asks me, what are you going to use it for? And I'm facing the fork in the road. It's like, do I just be honest with him? I said, you know what? I'm just going to be honest with him. And I told him, I said, I'm buying it for some benchmarking. He says, oh, in that case, it's this price. And it was lower.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I always wrote that off to the culture of the Japanese car company, but it could have been that this is an American working for a Japanese car company, and maybe he wanted to help the American guy out. But
wow,
I don't know. But I always kind of, my first impression was that they're really trying to foster this benchmarking.
How interesting. I mean, that makes me think about, sales in general. Gosh,
Right.
We do some sort of a sliding scale. What's your family's income? Okay, here's our fee, or I don't know, right?
Right.
Or why are you getting a?
Well, it's interesting. That's how they do speeding tickets in Europe, in some
makes
countries.
sense. Yeah,
your speeding ticket is proportional to your income.
Kind of makes sense.
Kind of crazy on one hand, but
Yeah.
it's hard for us to stomach as Americans. But
Yep.
those are the cultural nuances of some other places, and you can have some interesting ideas.
Yep.
Benchmarking. I love that. Thank you, Doug, and thank you for taking time and sharing your day with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great meeting you, Doug.
My pleasure. Nice meeting you too, Matt. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me on the show. It's been fun talking with you guys.
Likewise.
Okay. All right, Doug. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Have happy holidays.
All right. You too. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
All right, Matt. Ready to wrap up?
Yeah, man, that was a great show. Really
good stuff. Yeah. Two fun guests. I've got double guests coming up for the next. We're kicking off. Actually, we're doing another show next week if you can make it.
I should be here.
All right. Well, for Matt, myself, and Bold, wishing you guys an awesome day. As always, go big, go bold.